Most people never break their bad habits. Not because they're weak, but because they're terrified of the silence that follows. They are scared of the peace, scared of what they might hear in the quiet space that opens up when the noise of the struggle finally stops. There comes a time when we realize we are not the masters of our own lives. We feel pulled by invisible strings, the strings of anxiety, of old habits, of anger, of a restlessness we cannot name. We are tossed about by the waves of our own emotions, our own impulses. This is not a journey to learn how to cut those strings or to calm the ocean. That is a fool's errand. Instead, this is a journey to find the quiet, unmoving center within you, a place from which you can watch the strings and feel the waves without being controlled by them. It is a journey to realize that you have something inside you far more powerful, far more miraculous than the things that affect you and make you dance like a puppet. It is a journey to find your own unshakable strength. Have you ever felt it? That strange and frustrating disconnect. You wake up one morning and with perfect clarity, you decide today is the day. Today you will be better. You will eat healthy food. You will work out. You will be patient with your family. You will not lose your temper. The intention is pure. The resolve feels like steel. And then, the day happens. By evening, you find yourself on the couch, surrounded by the evidence of your failure, wondering what happened. The steel resolve melted away, replaced by the familiar sting of self-recrimination. It feels like there is a ghost in the machine, a saboteur living in your own mind, who waits for you to set a noble course, only to seize the controls and steer you directly into the rocks. This is the exhausting internal battle that so many of us fight in silence. We are told the answer is willpower, but our own experience tells us that willpower is a fickle ally, a muscle that is always sore. We feel our emotions override what our mind tells us is right, and we are left feeling aimless, irritable, and hypocritical. We become prone to anger, lashing out at those who have done nothing wrong, simply because the pressure inside has become too much to bear. We become so sensitive to criticism that any small comment feels like a personal attack. In the quiet of the night, when the distractions finally fade, the ghost is at its loudest. We lie awake at 3 a.m., replaying a mistake, a foolish word, a moment of weakness. We are told to build better habits, to be more disciplined, but every attempt feels like starting a war against an enemy who knows all of our weaknesses, because that enemy is us. This feeling of being your own worst enemy is not a sign that you are broken. It is a sign that you are human. The modern world has perfected the art of distraction, encouraging us to bounce from one shiny object to the next, precisely because it keeps us from having to sit in solitude and ask the difficult questions. Our unchecked impulses, fueled by a culture of instant gratification, become the source of immense and unending turmoil. The fundamental problem is not that we cannot stick to a diet, or a workout plan, or a meditation practice. Those are merely the symptoms. The real problem is the war itself. The constant, draining, internal conflict is what consumes all our energy, leaving nothing left for real change. We are exhausted not from our failures, but from the fighting. What if the path to strength was not to fight harder? What if it was to find a different way altogether? A way to declare a truce. A way to understand the ghost in the machine, and perhaps to make peace with it. That is the path the Stoics laid out for us. A path that begins not with more struggle, but with a profound and liberating surrender. The first step out of the chaos is to find solid ground. For 2,000 years, the most practical tool for this has been a simple, yet life-altering, principle from the Stoic philosopher Epictetus. He taught that if we want to find peace and strength, we must first draw a clear line in the sand of our reality. On one side of that line are the things we can control. On the other, the things we cannot. Things we cannot control are, in short, everything external to our own mind. We cannot control what other people say, what they think, or what they do. We cannot control the economy, the weather, or weather. Someone cuts us off in traffic. We cannot control the past. We cannot control the future. We cannot even fully control our own bodies, which get sick and grow old, or our reputation, which is in the hands of others. Things we can control are startlingly few, but infinitely powerful. We control our opinions, our judgments, our intentions, our desires, and our actions. In a word, we control how we choose to respond to the things we cannot control. This is the dichotomy of control, and it is the foundation of all inner power. The great Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, perhaps the most powerful man in the world at the time, constantly reminded himself of this truth. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Our anxiety, our frustration, our despair, almost all of it comes from a simple miscalculation. We waste our precious energy trying to command the things we cannot, while utterly neglecting the one domain where we are sovereign, our own inner world. Think of a gardener. The gardener cannot control the sun, the rain, or the coming of winter. To rage against a drought or curse a flood is madness. It is a waste of life. A wise gardener accepts the weather as it is. They focus their energy on the things they can control: tilling the soil, planting the seeds, pulling the weeds, and nurturing the plants. They work within their domain. This is not a philosophy of passive resignation. It is not about giving up and letting the world happen to you. In fact, it is the very opposite. It is a powerful strategy for liberating your energy. When you consciously identify and let go of the things you cannot control, you reclaim the vast reserves of mental and emotional power that you were previously wasting on pointless worry, anger, and fear. You stop fighting battles you were never going to win. And all of that reclaimed energy can then be channeled with laser focus into your own choices, your own actions, your own character. You become more effective, not less. When you are stuck in traffic, you cannot control the cars in front of you, but you can control your choice to practice patience instead of rage. When you face criticism, you cannot control the other person's opinion, but you can control whether you let it wound you. When you worry about losing your job, you cannot control your company's decisions, but you can control how you prepare, how you improve your skills, and how you face the future with courage. This is the first key. To drop the heavy weight of the world you were never meant to carry, to draw the line, and to begin your work on the only ground that has ever truly been yours, your own mind. Once we have found our solid ground by understanding what we can and cannot control, the next key is to realize that we are the architects of our own reality. This is not a mystical statement. It is a deeply practical one. The Stoics taught that events in the world are, in themselves, neutral. They are just facts. It is our perception of those facts, our judgment about them, that gives them their power to help or harm us. Epictetus stated this most clearly. It is not things themselves that disturb people, but their judgments about these things. An event happens. We then form an opinion about it, and from that opinion, an emotion arises. For example, event: someone criticizes your work. Judgment: this is a terrible insult. I have failed. They think I am incompetent. Emotion: shame, anger, anxiety. The Stoic learns to insert a pause in this chain reaction. They learn to see the event for what it is, words spoken by another person, and to question their automatic judgment. Marcus Aurelius gave himself this direct command: choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't been. This is not denial. It is not pretending that painful things don't happen. It is the profound realization that the pain is not in the event itself, but in our assessment of it. And that assessment is something we have the power to change. Think of your mind like a mirror. A mirror simply reflects what is in front of it without judgment. A dog walks by, it reflects a dog. A storm passes, it reflects a storm. Most of us, however, live not with a mirror but with a paintbrush. An event occurs, and we immediately begin to paint over it with our own colors, our fears, our insecurities, our past experiences. We don't see what happened. We see our interpretation of what happened. How often do we suffer more in our imagination than we do in reality? We receive a short email from our boss and spend the rest of the day in a state of anxiety, imagining we are about to be fired when in reality our boss was simply busy. We catastrophize, turning a small problem into a life-ending disaster in our minds. This is the paintbrush at work, turning a neutral reality into a terrifying masterpiece of our own creation. The practice, then, is to become the mirror, to strip away the layers of subjective judgment and see the world with objective clarity. When someone insults you, see it simply as, "This person has spoken these words." Not, "This person has hurt me." The words are an external event outside your control. Your interpretation of them is internal and fully within your control. You can choose to see them as an attack, or you can choose to see them as information about the other person's state of mind, which has nothing to do with you. The world does not hurt you. The failure does not break you. It is the story you tell yourself about these things that holds all the power, and you are the storyteller. This key teaches us that we can always, at any moment, choose to tell a different, more rational and more peaceful story. With a clear mind, grounded in what we can control and perceive, we can now turn to action. But here too, our modern anxieties often lead us astray. We become obsessed with the goal, with the final outcome. We want the promotion, the perfect relationship, the finished novel. We fixate on this distant point on the horizon, and the vast space between here and there fills us with paralysis and dread. The third key is to let go of the outcome and fall in love with the process. It is to understand that a good life is built not with grand, sweeping gestures, but with small, consistent, well-executed actions. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, "You must build up your life action by action, and be content if each one achieves its goal as far as possible, and no one can keep you from this." Think of a stonemason building a great cathedral. If she stares all day at the empty space where the towering spire should be, she will be crushed by the impossibility of the task. But the wise stonemason does not do this. She focuses only on the single stone in front of her. She sets it perfectly. Then she moves to the next. Her world is not the cathedral. Her world is this one stone, and the next, and the next. The cathedral rises as a byproduct of her devotion to the process. This is the path to mental toughness. It is the simple, unglamorous act of showing up every single day and putting in the work. It is about finding satisfaction not in the fantasy of future success, but in the tangible reality of the present effort. The simple act of immersing yourself in your craft, action by action, builds focus and mental endurance. This key also frees us from the poison of comparison when our goal is simply to perform the present action with virtue and care. What others are doing becomes irrelevant. The Stoics teach us to measure ourselves against ourselves. Are you acting in accordance with your own values today? Are you a little better than you were yesterday? That is the only comparison that matters. To waste time speculating about your neighbors, scrolling through social media, and feeling envious of others is to abandon your own post. The future is a phantom. The goal is a mirage. All you have is this breath, this moment, this single action in front of you. As the Stoics advised, do it with precise and genuine seriousness, as if it were the last thing you were doing in your life. Free yourself from the anxiety of the destination, and you will find a profound peace in the rhythm of the journey. That is all that is ever asked of you. Once we have laid the foundation, understanding what we control, how we perceive, and how to act, we must begin the work of building a sanctuary, a place of refuge inside ourselves that the chaos of the world cannot touch. The Stoics called this the inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius described it perfectly. Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul. People try to get away from it all by escaping to the country, to the beach, to the mountains. But true escape, true tranquility, is always available, just an instant's recollection away. It is the retreat into your own mind. This is not a place you are born with. It is a fortress you must build. Its walls are not made of stone, but of strong, clear principles. Its guards are not soldiers, but your own well-trained reason. Many people live their lives emotionally exposed, their inner peace dependent on the weather, on the stock market, on the moods of their boss. When the storms of life hit, they are left with no shelter. The inner citadel is the shelter you build for yourself, a fortress that makes you, in the words of the Stoics, unconquerable. But how is this citadel built? It is fortified through daily practice. It is strengthened in moments of solitude when we deliberately quiet the external noise to hear our own thoughts. One of the most powerful tools for this construction is the practice of journaling. The great Stoic statesman Seneca made it his evening ritual. After the day was done and his wife was asleep, he would write, "I examine my entire day and go back over what I've done and said, hiding nothing from myself, passing nothing by." The self-examination is the work of a master architect. By reviewing your actions, you see where the walls of your citadel are weak. Did you give in to anger? Did you speak dishonestly? Did you allow a petty annoyance to disturb your peace? Each evening, you inspect the fortifications. Each morning, you resolve to build them stronger. This is not some abstract metaphor. The strength of this fortress is directly tied to the mastery of the first principles we have discussed. The walls are not emotional barriers meant to shut out the world. The walls are made of correct judgments. The citadel is not a place to hide, but a command center from which you can engage with the world rationally and effectively. Its strength comes from your ability to distinguish what you can and cannot control, to perceive events without false judgment, and to act with virtue. In this way, you have already been laying the foundations. The daily practice of retreat and reflection is how you raise the walls. Stone by stone, with our fortress under construction, we must now forge our shield. This shield is a Stoic practice that seems at first counterintuitive and perhaps even pessimistic. It is called premeditatio malorum, the chiesa de Dico, premeditation of evils. Seneca gave the clearest instruction on this. What is quite unlooked for is more crushing in its effect, and unexpectedness adds to the weight of a disaster. This is a reason for ensuring that nothing ever takes us by surprise. The wise person, he argued, projects their thoughts ahead and considers every possible eventuality, not just the usual course of events. They rehearse in their mind exile, torture, war, shipwreck. They think about losing their job, their wealth, their loved ones. Why would anyone do this? It is not to invite misery or to live in a state of constant fear. It is to do the opposite. It is to strip misfortune of its greatest weapon, the element of surprise. An army that is ambushed is easily thrown into chaos and defeated. An army that has anticipated the attack and prepared for it can hold its ground. By calmly and rationally visualizing things going wrong, we inoculate ourselves against the shock and pain if they do happen. It is like a vaccine for the mind. By exposing yourself to a weakened dose of adversity in your imagination, you build up an immunity that protects you in reality. This practice must be distinguished from anxious, looping worry. Anxiety is imagining a negative outcome and feeling helpless. Premeditatio malorum is imagining a negative outcome and then calmly planning how you would endure it with virtue and strength. It is a rational exercise in preparedness that Marcus Aurelius practiced this every morning. He would begin his day by telling himself, Today I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness. By anticipating this, he was not surprised or disturbed when it happened. He was prepared. This practice also has a beautiful side effect. It cultivates profound gratitude. When you spend a few moments imagining that you have lost your job, you return to your work with a renewed sense of appreciation. When you contemplate the loss of a loved one, you treat them with more kindness and patience in the present moment. Waking from a nightmare where you have lost everything, you feel an overwhelming sense of relief and gratitude for the simple reality of your life. This is not about inviting disaster. It is about greeting it at the door as an old, expected acquaintance, not a terrifying stranger. By walking through the fire in your mind, you learn that you will not be consumed by the flames of reality. You will be prepared. You will be resilient. You will be ready. We have built our fortress and forged our shield. Now we learn the secret art of Stoic alchemy. This is the key that transforms the very nature of our struggles. It is the understanding that every obstacle in our path is not blocking the path. The obstacle is the path. Marcus Aurelius captured this transformative idea in a single powerful line. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Most of us see life's difficulties as burdens. A rude person, a project that fails, a sudden illness, a financial loss. We see these things as unfortunate interruptions to our lives. We get frustrated, we get angry, we feel like victims. The Stoic sees these moments differently. They see them as opportunities. Every obstacle, every adversity, is a chance to practice a virtue. The rude person is not an annoyance. They are an opportunity to practice patience and understanding. The unexpected delay is not a frustration. It is an opportunity to practice stillness. The failure of a project is not a catastrophe. It is an opportunity to practice resilience and learn from mistakes. The fear you feel is not a weakness. It is an opportunity to practice courage. This is the alchemy. The mind learns to take the base metal of any situation, no matter how ugly or unwanted, and convert it into the gold of virtuous character. As Marcus also wrote, a blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. The fire does not complain about the type of wood it is given. It does not wish for better fuel. It simply consumes whatever comes its way and grows stronger, brighter. Our job is to become that fire, to stop wishing for an easier life, an easier path, and to realize that the path we are on is the perfect training ground for the person we want to become. The universe is not conspiring against you. It is conspiring with you. It is providing you with the exact raw material you need to forge your soul. Seneca taught that difficulties strengthen the mind, just as labor strengthens the body. We would never go to a gym and complain that the weights are too heavy. We understand that the resistance is precisely what makes us stronger. This key teaches us to see all of life's challenges as our personal gym, each one an invitation to grow in strength, wisdom, and character. Nothing is a waste. Everything is fuel. We now arrive at the practices that demand the deepest surrender. The first of these is perhaps the most famous Stoic reminder of all, Memento Mori. Remember, you must die. In our modern world, we do everything we can to avoid this thought. We see it as morbid, depressing, and fearful. But the Stoics saw it as the ultimate tool for a joyful and meaningful life. They understood that it is only by confronting our mortality that we can truly begin to live. Think of your life as a single burning candle in a vast and endless darkness. It is beautiful, it is precious, and it is brief. Forgetting this, we act as if we have all the time in the world. We waste our days on trivial matters. We hold on to petty grudges. We get lost in anxieties about things that do not matter. We postpone our dreams. Memento Mori is the lens that brings everything into sharp focus. Marcus Aurelius used it as a constant, urgent command to himself. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. If this were your last day on earth, would you spend it arguing with a stranger online? Would you spend it worrying about what others think of you? Would you spend it consumed by jealousy or resentment? Of course not. The thought of death dissolves the trivial. It is the great clarifier. Seneca urged us to live as if each day were a complete life in itself. Let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life, he wrote. Let us postpone nothing. This is not a practice of fear, but of profound gratitude and priority. It is the clarity you feel after a near-miss accident, when suddenly all the small stuff falls away and you are left with a raw, powerful appreciation for being alive. The Stoics taught that we don't need to wait for a near-death experience to feel this. We can access it at any time, simply by remembering, you are going to die. This is not a threat, but a promise, a gift. It is the frame that gives the painting of your life its beauty and its meaning. Knowing the end is coming is what makes the now so sacred. It is the ultimate deadline, the final call to action. So what will you do with the time that remains? This is the final and most profound key to individual strength. It is the culmination of everything we have learned. It is a concept the Stoics practiced and the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche later named amor fati, the love of one's fate. This goes far beyond mere acceptance. It is not just enduring what happens to you. It is actively, joyfully, and unconditionally loving everything that happens, seeing it all as necessary, perfect, and meant to be. The ancient Stoics used a powerful metaphor to explain this idea. They said a person is like a dog leashed to a moving cart. The cart represents fate, or the unfolding of life. The dog has two choices. It can struggle against the leash, dig in its heels, bark, and fight. In the end, it will still be dragged along by the cart, but it will do so miserably, choked and bruised. Or, the dog can recognize the direction the cart is moving and choose to run joyfully alongside it, keeping pace smoothly. The journey is the same. The experience is radically different. We are that dog. The cart of life will move in the direction. It will move. We can spend our lives wishing things were different, lamenting the past, fearing the future, and fighting against the reality of the present moment. Or we can choose to love our fate. Epictetus put it this way: do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens happen the way it happens. Then you will be happy. But how can we love tragedy? How can we love pain, loss, or injustice? This is the great challenge of amor fati. The Stoics would say you are not asked to love the painful event in isolation. You are asked to love the entire tapestry of life, of which that painful thread is a necessary part. It is the radical trust that everything that has happened is happening and will happen as part of a larger, perfect whole. Think of a time in your past, a painful breakup, a job you were fired from, a major failure. At the time, it may have felt like the end of the world. But now, looking back, can you see how that very event was necessary to lead you to where you are now? Can you feel a sense of gratitude for that hardship because it taught you something vital or set you on a better path? Amor fati is the practice of feeling that gratitude not in hindsight, but in the present moment. What if everything that has ever happened to you, every joy and every scar, was not a random series of events, but a perfect path leading you to this exact moment? What if it could not have been any other way? Amor fati is not about saying this is good. It is about saying this is. And because it is necessary. And because it is necessary, I will love it. This is the ultimate surrender and the source of unshakable peace. We have journeyed inward. building our fortress, forging our character, and learning to love our fate. Now for the final key, we do the opposite. We zoom out. We take what the Stoics called the view from above. This is the practice of sympathia, the profound recognition that all things in the universe are interconnected, mutually woven together into a single sacred web. Marcus Aurelius urged himself to meditate on this constantly. He would practice visualizing the world from a great height, looking down upon the earth. To see them from above, he wrote, the thousands of animal herds, the rituals, the voyages on calm or stormy seas, the different ways we come into the world, share it with one another, and leave it. From this cosmic perspective, our own lives, our own problems, which feel so massive and all-consuming from the ground, shrink to their proper size. The promotion you are stressed about, the argument you had, the anxieties that keep you up at night from this height, they are like grains of sand on an infinite beach. This view does not invalidate our struggles, but it puts them in their true context, robbing them of their power to overwhelm us. This is the ultimate reframe. But it does something even more profound. It dissolves the ego. From the view from above, the hard line between me and you begins to blur. We see that we are all made of the same substance, breathing the same air, sharing the same small, blue marble floating in the vastness of space. The differences that seem so important on the ground race, nationality, status, belief become insignificant. This realization is the source of true compassion. Marcus wrote that from this perspective, he could see that even the wrongdoer has a nature related to his own, not of the same blood, but of the same mind, possessing a share of the divine. This is the meaning behind his famous line, "What is bad for the hive is bad for the bee." We are not separate beings competing with one another. We are parts of a single organism. To harm another is to harm ourselves. To help another is to help ourselves. This is the climax of our journey. The entire purpose of building mental toughness, of forging an unbreakable inner citadel, is not so you can hide inside it, safe from the world. It is to make you strong enough to step outside the fortress and serve the common good, to play your part in the great interconnected whole without being broken by the world's challenges. The ultimate cure for the lonely, anxious, restless soul is not to perfect the self, but to transcend the self. It is the realization that you are not an isolated island of consciousness. You are a wave in a single, boundless ocean. Everything is interwoven, and the web is wholly. We began this journey feeling like a puppet, tossed about by the strings of emotion and habit. We sought to find strength. We learned to find our solid ground, to see that our power lies not in controlling the world, but in controlling our response to it. We learned to be the architects of our own reality by mastering our perceptions. We built an inner citadel, a fortress of reason and peace. We armed ourselves with the shield of preparation and learned the alchemy of turning every obstacle into an opportunity. We looked death in the eye to find clarity, and we learned to love our fate. And finally, from the highest viewpoint, we saw that the self we worked so hard to fortify was never separate to begin with. The strings are still there. The storms of life still come, but you are no longer the puppet. You are no longer the ship tossed on the waves. You are the quiet observer within. You are the stillness at the center of the storm. You are the mountain which does not fight the wind and the rain, but simply is. Its strength is not in its aggression, but in its deep and quiet ROOTEDNESS. This is not a destination you arrive at once and for all. It is a path you must choose to walk every single day. But now you have a map. You have the keys. The rest of the journey is yours. Subscribe for more.